The best thing about it was that they could see that you muted them, and they couldn't do a damn thing about it. There was never any fighting on school grounds. The simulation simply didn't allow it. The entire planet of Ludus was a no PvP zone, meaning no player versus player combat was permitted. At the school, the only real weapons were words, so I'd become skilled at wielding them. I'd attended school in the real world up until the 6th grade. It hadn't been a very pleasant experience. It was a painfully shy, awkward kid with low self-esteem and almost no social skills. A side effect of spending most of my childhood inside the Oasis Online. I didn't have a problem talking to people or making friends, but in the real world, interacting with other people, especially kids, made me a nervous wreck. I never knew how to act or what to say when I did work up the courage to speak, it always seemed the wrong thing. My appearance was part of the problem. I was overweight and had been for as long as I can remember. My bankrupt diet of government subsidized sugar and starch laden food was a contributing factor. But I was also an Oasis addict. So the only exercise I usually got back then was running away from bullies before and after school. To make matters worse, my limited wardrobe consisted entirely of ill-fitted clothing from thrift stores and donation bins. The social equivalent of having a bullseye painted on your forehead. Even so, I tried my best to fit in. Year after year, my eyes would scan the lunchroom like a T-1000, searching for a clique that might accept me. But even the other outcasts wanted nothing to do with me. I was too weird. Even for the weirdos. And girls, talking to girls was out of the question. To me, they were like some exotic alien species, both beautiful and terrifying. Whenever I got near one of them, I invariably broke out in a cold sweat and lost the ability to speak in complete sentences. For me, school had been a Darwinian experience, a daily gauntlet of ridicule, abuse, and isolation. By the time I entered 6th grade, I was beginning to wonder if I'd be able to maintain my sanity until graduation. Still 6 long years away. Then, one glorious day, our principal announced that any students with a passing grade point average could apply for a transfer to the new Oasis public school system. The real public school system, the one run by the government, had been an underfunded, overcrowded train wreck for decades. And now the conditions at many schools had gotten so terrible that every kid with half a brain was being encouraged to stay home and attend school online. I nearly broke my neck sprinting to the school office to submit my application. It was accepted and I transferred to Oasis Public School number 1873 the following semester. Prior to my transfer, my Oasis avatar had never left Incipio, the planet at the center of Sector 1, where new avatars were spawned at the time of their creation. There wasn't much to do on Incipio except chat with other noobs or shop in one of the giant virtual malls that covered the planet. If you wanted to go somewhere more interesting, you had to pay teleportation fare to get there. And that cost money, something I didn't have. So my avatar was standing on Incipio, that is, until my new school's emailed me a teleportation voucher to cover the cost of my avatar's transport to Ludus, the planet where all of the Oasis public schools were located. There were hundreds of schools on Ludus, spread out evenly across the planet's surface. The schools were all identical because the same construction code was copied and pasted into different locations whenever a new school was needed. And since the buildings were just pieces of software, the design wasn't limited by monetary constraints or even by the laws of physics. So every school was a grand palace of learning. With polished marble hallways, cathedral-like classrooms, zero-G gymnasiums, and virtual libraries containing every school board-approved book ever written. On my first day at OPS 1873, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. Now, instead of running a gauntlet of bullies and drug addicts on my walk to school each morning, I went straight to my hideout and stayed there all day. Best of all is the Oasis. No one could tell me that I was fat, that I had acne, or that I wore the same shabby clothes every week. Bullies couldn't pelt me with spitballs, give me atomic wedgies, or pummel me by the bike rack after school. No one could even touch me. In here, I was safe. When I arrived in my world history classroom, several students were already seated at their desks. Their avatars all sat motionless with their eyes closed. This was the signal that they were engaged, meaning they were currently on phone calls, browsing the web, or logged into chat rooms. It was poor Oasis etiquette to try to talk to an engaged avatar. They usually just ignored you, and you'd get an automated message telling you to piss off. I took a seat at my desk and tapped the engaged icon at the edge of my display. My own avatar's eyes slid shut, but I could still see my surroundings. I tapped another icon, and a large two-dimensional web browser window appeared, suspended in space directly in front of me. Windows like this one were visible only to my avatar, so no one could read over my shoulder, unless I selected the option to allow it. My home page was set to the Hatchery, one of the more popular Gunter message forums. The Hatchery site interface was designed to look like designed to look and operate like an old pre-internet dial-up bulletin board system, complete with the screech of a 300 band modem during the login sequence. Very cool. I spent a few minutes scanning the most recent message threads, taking in the latest Gunter news and rumors. I rarely posted anything to the boards, even though I made sure to check them every day. I didn't see much of interest this morning. The usual Gunter clan flame wars. Ongoing arguments about the correct interpretation of some cryptic passage in Anorak's almanac. High-level avatars bragging about some new magic item or artifact they'd attained. This crap had been going on for years now. In the absence of any real progress, Gunter's subculture had become mired in bravado, bullshit, and pointless infighting. It was sad, really. My favorite message threads were those devoted to bashing the Sixers. Sixers was the derogatory nickname Gunters had given to employees of Innovative Online Industries, IOI, pronounced IOI, was a global communications conglomerate and the world's largest internet service provider. A large portion of IOI's business centered around providing access to the Oasis and on selling goods and services inside of it. For this reason, IOI had attempted several hostile takeovers of gregarious simulation systems, all of which had failed. Now they were trying to seize control of GSS by exploiting a loophole in Halliday's will. IOI had created a new department within the company that they called their oology. Oology Division. Yes, that's right. Oology. 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 Oology was originally defined as the scientific science of studying birds' eggs. But in recent years, it had taken on a second meaning, the science of searching for Halliday's Easter egg. So they took a scientific word that sounds funny to begin with and put it to hunting for an Easter egg. Laziness doesn't stop ever. IOI's Oology Division, Oology, had but one purpose: to win Halliday's contest and seize control of his fortune, his company, and the Oasis itself. Like most Gunters, I was horrified at the thought of IOI taking control of the Oasis. The company's PR machine had made its intentions crystal clear. IOI believed that Halliday never properly monetized his creation, and they wanted to remedy that. They would start charging a monthly fee for access to the simulation. They would plaster advertisements on every visible surface. User anonymity and free speech would become things of the past. The moment IOI took over, the Oasis would cease to be. The open source virtual utopia I'd grown up with would become a corporate run dystopia, an overpriced theme park for the wealthy elitist. I haven't heard that happening any time before. Oh wait, yes I have. IOI required its egg hunters, which it referred to as oologists of oology, to use their employee numbers as their Oasis avatar names. These numbers were all 6 digits in length. They also began with the numeral 6. So everyone began calling them Sixers. These days, most Gunters referred to them as Suxors. SUX0RZ. Because they sucked. To become a Sixer, you had to sign a contract stipulating that, among other things, that if you found Halliday's egg, the prize would become the sole property of your employer. In return, IOI gave you a bi-monthly paycheck, food, lodging, healthcare benefits, and a retirement plan. The company also provided your avatar with high-end armor, vehicles, and weapons, and covered all of your teleportation fares. Joining the Sixers was a lot like joining the military. Sixers weren't hard to spot because they all looked identical. They were all required to use the same hulking male avatar. Regardless of operator's true gender, with close-cropped dark hair and facial features left at the system default setting. And they all wore the same navy blue uniform. The only way to tell these corporate drones apart was by checking the Sixer employee number, stamped to the right breast just underneath the IOI corporate logo. Like most Gunters, I loathed the Sixers and was disgusted by their very existence. By hiring an army of contract egg hunters, IOI was perverting the entire spirit of the contest. Of course, it could be argued that all the Gunters who had joined clans were doing the same thing. There were now hundreds of Gunter clans, some with thousands of members, all working together to find the egg. Each clan was bound by an ironclad legal agreement stating that if one clan member won the contest, all members would share the prize. Solos like me didn't care much for clans either, but we still respected them as fellow Gunters. Unlike the Sixers, whose goal was to hand the Oasis over to an evil multinational conglomerate intent on ruining it, my generation had never known a world without Oasis. To us, it was much more than a game or an entertainment platform.